This is TV's News at 7, reaching you live from our headquarters here in Lagos. We begin from the nation's capital, where the Court of Appeal, Abuja, has set aside the decision of the Osun State Governorship Tribunal and uphold the election of Governor Ademola Adeleke. The State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal had sacked Mr. Adeleke from office, saying he did not score majority of lawful votes during the July 16th governorship polls. But in a unanimous agreement by a three-man panel led by Justice Mohammed Shaibu, the Court of Appeal quashed the tribunal's judgment, giving its verdict to uphold Adeleke as a rightful governor of Osun State. The Court of Appeal panel revoked the tribunal's order, which directed that a certificate of return be withdrawn from Mr. Adeleke and issued to Mr. Oyetola. The panel upheld the issue of beavers raised against Mr. Oyetola, stating that the Osun State Tribunal was wrong to have said there was overvoting, a claim that only relied on the evidence by Mr. Oyetola and the APC, and as such, doesn't prove their case in any way. Well, let's now talk to the Chief Press Secretary to former Governor of Osun State, Ismail Omikpindo. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. How is the APC reacting to the Court of Appeal judgment?
Thank you very much. For now, we are yet to get the copy of the judgment, but from the snippets that we have gotten so far, I believe very strongly that we have a potential ground for approaching the Supreme Court. Because, for instance, the court heard that we needed the voter register to prove a case of overvoting. But don't forget that it was the old Electoral Act where it was made mandatory that we needed the voter register to prove overvoting. But with beavers, because accreditation and voting takes place simultaneously. With beavers, we do not need, to the best of my knowledge, a voter register to prove our voting. And if you look at the Electoral Act, Section 51, subsection 2, stated it clearly how overvoting can arise, that when the number of vote cast is higher than the number of accredited voters. And that was exactly what we took to the court.
Will the former governor and the APC be seeking redress at the Supreme Court on this matter?
Well, certainly, from the snippets we have gotten so far, we believe very strongly that this is a matter that should be taken to the next stage of the judicial process because there are issues. For instance, the court agreed with the counsel to INEC that there was need to update results from time to time. So if you allow such judgment, what it therefore means is that INEC can update results perpetually, but there must be an end to the update, because don't forget that the election in Abia and Adamawa, they made recourse to the back-end server, and that is why they are reviewing the results. So we got our own beavers report from the back-end server 10 days after a declaration and a return was made. So if you now say that Senator Adeleke, who was not the agency that conducted the election, if you now say that it is the report from him that you will use to determine the matter, it means there is a problem. And so that is why I believe very strongly that the Supreme Court will have to come in to help us resolve some of these gray areas.
The attention is also turned to developments outside the court, Mr. Omikpindo, particularly with the election outcomes in Osun in the past weeks. The PDP did not only win the presidential election, it also got a comfortable majority at the House of Assembly. Is your party concerned about how well consolidated the PDP is becoming back in Osun?
Well, if you look at the activities in the build-up to that election, Thankfully, we were able to make Nigerians know exactly what transpired before, during, and after the presidential election, before and during the House of Assembly election. For instance, before the presidential election, about 25 of APC members were murdered, particularly in Ijesha land. And so that election was heavily militarized. And if you look at even the outcome of the presidential election, for instance, when the PDP was not in power, if we go by the result of the INEC, they were said to have posted over 400,000 votes during the governorship. Therefore, when they are now in power, one would have expected them to either surpass that record or even maintain it. But in the presidential election, in spite of the intimidation, in spite of the harassment, they were only able to post a little over 350,000 votes, while we did a little over 340,000 votes. So meaning that if they had not militarized the atmosphere, they probably would not have done that. And that was the same strategy they deployed during the House of Assembly election. They targeted our strongholds, ensured that they destroy the process there. And so we cannot use the outcome of those elections to determine whether or not PDP is on ground or not.
Well, election there has been won and lost. Perhaps we'll also see your party address these matters that you have raised at the tribunal. Ismail Omikpidon is the Chief Press Secretary to former Osun State Governor Ademola Oyetola. Thank you for talking to us on the news at 7.
The pleasure is mine. God bless you.